Oh, happy New Year, Mark Bare Naked Willie. How are you, my friend?
Dave Cooper Live, January 1st, 2021.
Can you believe it? I mean, I think this is going to be an amazing year for building science, offsite construction, and doing it better. What do you think?
The future's so bright, I gotta wear shades, I tell you.
Hey, I always heard, man, when you're so cool, the sun shines 24 hours a day, right, brother?
Dang. I guess that's why we wear them indoors, because we also have these lights in our camera rooms.
Absolutely.
Wow, it's amazing to have another Friday, and what a great way, Dave, to kick off 2021. Sitting here with you, our friends in the audience, and some pretty darn good guests. And we're on Facebook,
LinkedIn,
YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, and tablets and phones, all the way from over the pond to East Coast, West Coast, and our friends in Canada, right?
all over. I mean, we have people from Saudi Arabia, Vietnam, United Kingdom, England, whatever you want to call it, France. So Estonia, I mean, they really are. They're coming in from all over. But hey, everybody, listen. So we want to wish you and everybody else out there a happy new year. Hope your brains aren't hurting too much from staying up and having a good time last night, depending on where you are in the country. And I know Mark as well. We wish you and your families only the best and happy New Year's. And hopefully it's a prosperous New Year's for everybody, and we can move forward with life and get out of this crisis we've been in. But with that said, Mark,
healthy lives and healthy buildings, right?
Keeping healthy buildings for healthy people. Absolutely. All right. So let's get into some business, Mark, because at Dave Cooper Live, we are bringing you the people and the processes that are building it better. Our guests include topics with building systems to building science to building codes and the tech to use to build it better. And today is no different, Mark, because today we have the people that actually take all of this building science, all this building tech, and put it together on paper so something can actually be built better.
And that's it, right? It's not just putting it on paper, but it's the team environment,
that's
right? And the experience and the sharing. You're gonna hear that echoed throughout the course of today. And quite honestly, this might be the only time of the show you can hear Dave and I talk. So,
well, yes, this may very well be the first time we ever have to use our BS pause button, we were told. So, hey, I'm looking forward to it. What a great way to open up the new year. So why don't we hop into it, Mark? You know Steve and Alexandra Baczek for quite some time right now. Why don't you give them a quick intro, and then we'll bring them into the show.
Yeah, I was a rambunctious a guy in the industry, and I heard a gentleman talking in Wisconsin at Better Buildings, Better Business. This is a lifetime ago. And boy, I for the first time ever, Dave, I shut my mouth and I opened both ears. And we didn't have phones at the time that could record things, right? We had phones that were goofballs compared to today. But I would have loved to record that conversation. But in fact, I didn't need to, because here we are years later, and he continues to hone his craft and bring great people up in the industry, including his daughter, who's a team member. So without further ado, please give a like and a thumbs up to Stephen and Alexandra Baczek.
All right. Welcome to the show, you two. Thank you so much for joining us today.
How you doing, Dave?
Thank you for having us.
Man, I'm doing great. I'm sitting down in Florida right now. It's about 83 degrees. So it's a big difference from sitting in Connecticut. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. Well, it's probably 35 degrees out here out in Boston. So
right. Well, I think this is absolutely great, Steve. We've been talking, off and on here on social media and trying to find a way to get together on the show. So I'm glad it's finally coming together, and I'm hoping to get to one of your projects one of these days here in the near future as well. But I mean, you're killing it. I mean, both of your team, everything that you guys are doing, watching you on the Build Show Network. Tell us, man. I got to understand, how in the heck did you do more video than me, maybe?
Yeah, well, we get around. It's trying to coordinate all that stuff. But why don't we just start? I'll give you a quick background on myself. Lexi could talk about herself. But as you guys know, my name's Steve Baczek. I'm an architect. So prior to architecture school, I always throw this in because it does have a really good link to who I am. But I did 4 years in the Marine Corps. And my time in the Marine Corps, and as Mark knows, I can probably talk for about 5 hours just on those 4 years. But I worked for some very high-powered people, like 4-star admirals, 3-star generals. Probably the top 3 or 4 people in the U.S. military at the time, and got to drive them and basically be with them almost every waking moment. But what it taught me how to be successful. And, people always say, if you want to be successful, then surround your people with successful people. And that was kind of thrown on me with the Marine Corps, but it kind of started my, trying to position myself for success. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to architecture school, and it just so happened that about, I don't know, maybe 9 months out of architecture school, I had a superb opportunity where I got to meet Joe Stiebrick and Betsy Pettit and chat with them about a potential job, as they were just starting Building Science Corporation at the time. And things went absolutely perfect. And, I got hired by Building Science Corporation. I worked for them for 10 years. And that whole, surround yourself with good people kind of thing. I mean, if you're talking about buildings, there's probably nobody better to walk down the hall with than Joe Stiebrick and have a conversation. And the superb thing I think about Joe is not only is he one of the smartest people that I've ever met, but he is probably the best mentor that I know of, in the sense that he was always willing to share information. He was always willing to stay on the topic until you fully understood it. But he had the ability to take very complex things and break them down to very simplified concepts so that everybody could understand it. And he didn't make you feel like a fool, none of that stuff. And he actually lifted you up, and you felt like, oh my God, I get it. I understand it. But it was the way that Joe explained it. And so to take that information and then be able to develop a career, but then take that career and now share that information. So we share a lot on Instagram and Facebook and the Build Show Network. Like you said, I do a video a week there. I'm always trying to throw out information. I break out drawings and tell people what I was thinking about while we were developing the projects. But this past May, I had the absolute best opportunity a dad could have, and that's having one of your children follow in your path. And, hence Alexandra graduated architecture school with her master's degree and decided to come and join me. And it's been nothing but a blast. But it's a blast for a number of reasons. That not only does she get to work with me, but I have all this information that it's like I have somebody to share it with now every moment. And, most of the time Lexi's turning around saying, okay, Dad, enough BS for today. That's enough. We need to move on. But I'll let Alex tell you a little bit about herself.
Yeah, Alex, I'm just curious, when you say enough BS for today, you mean enough building science, right?
Yes, no, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
I just want to clarify, because BS means a lot. It means building systems, building science, and
Yeah, and true BS.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. But my dad did a good summary of how we got here, but a little bit about me was, so I just finished at Roger Williams. I did my graduate and my undergraduate there, and it's definitely been a great ride. It was a great time there, great experience. But for all of you guys wondering, I'm guessing you guys assume I chose architecture because I saw my dad involved in it, and that's some of it. But being my dad, he's been doing this since I can remember, and I was little. I remember running around Building Science Corporation, and I can remember what it looks like at his job, seeing Betsy, all of that stuff. I remember having a great time. And since I was 6 or 7, I remember sitting on his lap at his computer while he was doing work and creating my personal house on SketchUp all the time. So, and I would always choose a circle, and I wanted a cylinder house, and he was always rolling his eyes, looking at me saying, that's just not how it works, but I guess we can go with it. So long story short, I got into college and my answer was I want to do architecture. I want to follow what he does. He's so happy doing what he does every day, and that's what I want to do. So I went through my last 6 years program and I just finished, and it is nothing short of what I expected it to be. We have a great time. We're out on, he's amazing. We're out on the job site probably about 2 or 3 times a week, actually. And it's a lot of, he finds it very important, which I do too now, of I draw these details, I'm designing these buildings. Then we take some of these drawings out to the job site and we sit there and pull them apart of exactly what was that line there that I drew, or exactly why did we change this area here from doing it the other way that we might have started thinking about first. But it's been a great time, and I'm looking forward to everything in the future. It just every day gets better and better, and I love it. I love every minute of it.
Yeah, Mark, and I know you got something to say, but I just for some point in this show, Alexandra, I am going to put you on the spot here, and I'm going to ask you how much great stuff you've taught your dad, because we can learn so much from the youth. And I'd be willing to bet that, you know, Stephen, you probably turned around and said, that's a pretty good idea.
She's already up the company's game. We just went out and bought, you know, what we consider the best rendering program, and I don't even know how to manipulate it, turn it on. And Lexi's turning out renderings that the clients are like, "Oh my God, it looks like a photo." So she's already turned it around and uplifting a whole section that I was slacking on.
Yeah, but I think you bring up a very good point of, I think one of the really good parts of working with my dad is the fact that he doesn't look at me like, okay, I'm some graduate that doesn't know anything. I don't bring anything to the table. Let me just sit here and lecture on all these things. He's actually quite incredible about the fact that we sit there and we talk. And when I say, well, I don't think that that's exactly how we should do it, maybe we should do it this way, he doesn't look at me at some like 23-year-old that sits there and says like, oh, she doesn't know anything. We sit there and we have like a nice 30-minute discussion on like, all right, you might be right on some parts. And I think that's why we work so well together.
Yeah, that's cool.
You both possess the discipline, the attitude, and the enthusiasm to take things farther. And that was echoed by how you introduced yourself. And to be able to have that attitude will always allow the situation to improve. And that's a blessing.
Yeah, it really is.
You know, it's funny, Mark. You know, I have all these anecdotal stories, but I can remember one time I was driving for the general, and we were talking about being successful and stuff. He was really good about trying. He played somewhat of a grandfather role too, and he one of the things he said, he goes, you know, being successful is pretty simple. He said, rule number one, and my kids will attest to this because I've told them all their lives, be there. And when they say, well, where is there? I say, you know where you need to be there, right? If you're at college and you're supposed to be in class, then be in class. Don't be in the dorm room sleeping or whatever. If you're supposed to be out at a job site at 9 o'clock, then be there at 8:55 waiting and prepared, right? Be there. But the second rule that the general had was shut up and listen, because while you're there, you might actually learn something, right? And I think a lot of people, especially in social media, they want to take the soapbox and preach and talk, but they're not listening to themselves, which they really should. And they're not listening to everybody else, which they really should. Everybody has something to offer. Everybody does. I have a lot of friends that are, oh, I don't want to go on Instagram. I don't have, you know, pretty pictures like you do. Or I don't have knowledge of it like you do. I said, there's no less than thousands of people that have the same level of knowledge, and they're sitting in the same seat on the learning curve as you. And they're asking the same, or afraid to ask the same questions. So someone needs to put it up and generate that discussion.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thank you for your service. Really do appreciate that. I had, your quote reminded me of something. My first sergeant used to always say, don't let your alligator mouth overrun your hummingbird ass, is what he told me. Have a good weekend.
There you go. I love it.
Yeah,
See, I learned something today.
There you go. I love it. All right, Mark, let's get into some BS science here. We have a lot of people tuning in. I already see the red comments box lit up. So thank you everybody for joining us today. If you didn't see our intro, we are lucky enough to have on the show Stephen and Alexandra Baczek of Baczek Architecture. So thank you for joining us. We're going to have a lot to cover today, and I think we're going to have a lot of questions to answer because we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And Mark, why are we on Twitch?
Because that's what all the cool kids are doing these days.
They're hanging out on Twitch playing video games. We need more young, smart people in this industry. All right, so moving into this. So, Steve, you're full of quotes, and we know they're going to come out. You know, here's one of them: long live our buildings. And the one thing that we're going to start this show off with today is, you know, what's the biggest problem with the building industry? Can you give us your opinions on this?
Yeah, so that one I get asked all the time by people. What's the biggest problem as you see it? And you know, having the experience at Building Science Corporation, which a lot of it was not developing new products, but basically going and looking at existing buildings and building failures. And so translating that to what the biggest problem as I see it is, we don't really have a good systematic way to inquire about the right things that we need to when we're developing projects and ask the right questions. And we certainly don't have a good path for development of the right projects. I mean, there's so many things that have special interests, whether they're companies that are selling products or different programs out there that want you to get points for this, points for that, that sometimes I think we lose sight of what does it really mean to be a successful project and how do we get there. And, you know, Peter Yost and I, we travel around the country when we could. This last year, certainly a challenge, but under the Home Building Crossroads lecture series. And one of the things that we're always talking about is how do we make these right decisions based on sound physics, based on sound building science, and how do we develop those answers? And it really is a big problem when I see how other people, you know, put projects together. And, you know, one of the things about being who I am and having, you know, Instagram and all of this stuff, people are always, I can't even tell you how many builders will send me a wall section and say, Steve, we just got this from the architect. Should I be doing this? You know, what should I do here? Is this the material I should be using? And it's like, I don't trust this detail. I don't know what's wrong with it, but I know enough to think that I shouldn't probably build it. And I should ask somebody. And it's, you know, it's crazy. And it's not that architects are bad. I'm not trying to get into that. Although Lexi will attest to, you know, when she graduated, I remember her saying it. And I said it when I graduated. It's like 6 years in college, and we didn't learn any of this stuff.
Yeah, right? Even today. Is that true, Alexandra?
100%. There is so much. I got out and I was very frustrated, I guess you could say, with the curriculum because I got out. My dad, I mean, he's sitting here talking about his military background, and there is nothing short of working for him that you see it in every facet that we work for or that I work for him in. He will throw me like just a pile of stress, let's say, of things I don't know how to do. And when I look at him and I say, listen, like I need help, because now figure it out and then talk to me. And it's all about like, are you going to drown or are you going to swim? And it's one or the other. But it was definitely frustrating at first because I saw it. Everything that I knew how to do from school, I would do. And he would look at me and be like, what is that? And I'm like, I don't even know. This is what I thought we were supposed to be doing. I didn't realize it was this way. But again, going out to the job site and that, I think one of the most important things that he showed me is every time that there is like a question on seeing condensation by windows or doors or things like that, I think it's super important because I've watched him on job sites walk up and somebody has a question. He goes, oh, that's probably from this. And I'm looking at it, just seeing a little bit of like watermark. And I'm like, how in the world did you just pick that out of your head of like the 30 options that it could have been? And then we sit there and we have this conversation of this is why, that is why. And I think the failure on all of these like different aspects is probably one of like the best things that I've learned from, of just understanding if there's that leakage around the window, all the different parts that it could be. And now all of a sudden I understand how this window goes together with the window assembly and how it goes to this and all those different intricates and facets of it.
Yeah. Well, Mark, you always say houses talk to you, right? I mean, I guess when you deal with them so long and long enough and you've been through all kinds of exploratory phases, trying to figure out why something's not doing what it's supposed to do. You know, that's the wisdom. You know, I say it all the time, and education costs money, right? You can learn the hard way, or you can get an education from somebody like your father and collaborate. But I mean, houses talk to you, right? Don't they, Mark?
I'm gonna echo how you said what you said, Alexander. So putting new construction and plans and permits on the shelf for a minute. If you walk into an existing building and walk the property and you're talking, you're not listening, because in all honesty, we know that the building and the environment of the building is talking to us all the time. And so I love how you commented about the condensation on the window. And, you know, we have these magical things called downspouts that are improperly, let's say, cared for and perhaps improperly installed in the first place. Moisture in all of its forms is a building killer. And the more we listen to
Number one killer.
It's a what?
Number one killer.
Number one killer. Yep. In all of its forms. And earlier, to circle back for a second, just to make Steven smile on air, he mentioned this fellow named Peter Yost. And when they do their crossroads stories and diagrams and talks, you know, there's 300-400 people in the room, and they're all what most people would consider the top of the home performance, high performance caliber. Yeah. And they'll drop these questions, and everyone raises their hand like, I know, because they want to get a cup or a t-shirt or golf clubs or whatever it's being given out. And the crowd is always stumped. And Peter will say, so every fall, the humidity level goes up in our house and everyone's throwing everything out. And then he says, actually, it's because there's a cord of wood in the basement.
Yeah.
Really?
But
Yeah.
they're sitting there saying, boy, that wood dries out really good.
Right. Let's get back to the original question, Stephen, in your comments. You know, so, you know, there's all these number systems, code system, point systems. I'm listening to Alexandra saying, well, I haven't been taught any of this in my, 4-year, 6-year educational path that I've gone down. That right there is a huge problem for us, that new architects, designers, even draftsmen, whatever it is, or what the intent is, if they're not being taught any building science to understand these issues, that's one thing, and that's a problem. But like you said, Stephen, is it more about the practical knowledge and really just understanding the science versus all of these check marks and point systems that everybody has with their systems?
Yeah, I mean, the point systems, and, to know me, and Mark will attest to it. It's, I don't put letters after my name other than architect or registered architect. And it's simply because I don't need all that stuff to be who I am. Right. People hire me because I know stuff, not because there's 10 letters after my name. And I'm not saying that that's the bad thing. People can do whatever they want to do. It's just that for me, I would rather, walk the walk than talk the talk. But there's a lot of ways to do it, Dave. It's part of it is getting the right education, finding mentors and stuff. And, one of the things that Lexi will attest to too is, I talk to people on Instagram and stuff, and I invite them out to come out to the job site with us. And, one of them that we had, little man with glasses, he's a young builder, probably been in business like 2 or 3 years. And I say, yeah, come on out and see a project. He comes out there and he's got a million questions. Like, hey, how'd you do this? Oh, how'd you do that? How'd you do that? Well, that's how we find out things. But it's about everybody in the industry. You can't keep that information locked up. And I'll give you a second part to that. We'll talk about it a little later, but I wanted to get to something else. The other opportunity that exists is, for builders and architects that do renovation work. I love renovation work. I still do it, even though we probably don't need to do it and could just get away with doing new homes. But there is no better education than tearing apart a 100-year-old building and looking at the walls to see, where did water get in? Why did it get in there? What happened when it got in there? Did it have the ability to dry? I mean, every building science concept conceivable can be achieved by just simply walking through a 50, 75-year-old building and, while it's being demoed or taken apart, or the day before, go down there with a hammer and take some of the drywall off around the windows and see how the windows performed, or any of that. There's a huge education. Rather than just rip it off, throw it in the dumpster, try and capture a little of that information before it goes away. And there's a huge education to be had there. And a lot of mine is from that, because at building science, that's what we did. We took buildings apart, and unfortunately it was to place blame on somebody, but that's where we live.
Well,
So.
and it's, people only know what they know. I mean, if the architects aren't being trained on this stuff, how's the builder getting trained on? That means the builder's not getting trained on this stuff. And that's a tough part about what we have going on right now.
My favorite thing to add to estimates and invoices when you're embarking on a existing building is to put in large capital letters right from the beginning, discovery, right? There's going to be an endless amount of discovery once we open this up, right? Your building inspector comes in and he sees what's in front of the walls, and that's wonderful. And that's more of a litigic thing. But truly, the discovery is, I opened this up and I found this. I opened this up and I found this. And what that leads to is a series of unbuilding, right? Before we can even begin to rebuild it and add the wonderful materials and practices that we have in our toolbox.
Yeah. And I just want to jump in and say, for like the people that are, let's say, my age, coming out of school, in school, anywhere around that age group, getting into the field, it's a little overwhelming when we hear like other people talking about, oh, just pull this apart, or just like go on a job site and take this and take a look at it. It's definitely like right off the bat, I sat there and said, okay, well, how myself can I sit there and do that when I'm just redlining for a company at the moment? But I think a lot of it was also a question of, how do you set yourself up? And my dad taught me this when I was just going into architecture. And he looked at me and said, the first thing before you work for anybody, I want you to work for a contractor, a construction company. And I sat out there one summer working for a construction company and just tearing exterior walls apart, the kitchen cabinets apart, and like pulling all these walls and doing that. And all of a sudden it didn't click. I didn't understand for probably about 4 years. And then I started drawing all these details and looking at it and going, oh my God, that line, that air barrier, or that was the tie vac that I was stapling on to the exterior sheathing and stuff like that. So I think I think it's so important too, to just sit there and understand it's as simple as working for them or going on a job site and just working for those kind of people, that you're allowed to do that stuff and then put the connections together later on. And then, as well as we've talked about it, I can't sit there and draw all these details and make these crazy things and ask these people to build it if I don't know what I'm asking them to do, which is very important. I can't walk on as an architect and be like, oh, just do this, if I don't understand how much work goes into what they're doing.
It sounds like that tagline, let's get going, the way you say it, right? And the thing that you have at your disposal when you're doing those things on a construction site is this magic tool that's an identifier of what you saw, what you see next, and what you continue to see. And hot damn, what you said, Stephen, is post that, throw that up there on social, like do the Bob Kelly, right? I see this, I see this, I see this, I see this, and you will have an arsenal of people commenting and giving you advice and sharing right here.
Sharing alternative ways to do it, ways that they do it, other materials. It's amazing how much you learn. I mean, so one of the things I said, we get back to it later, Dave, one of the parts of that I've learned about giving information, and I read this a while back in this book, but it basically says that if I give away all that information and free my brain, then I'm forced to think about the next level stuff, right? If I hold my cards close and I play the gatekeeper, then there's no reason for me to innovate or think beyond what I have, because I got it, right? But if I give that all away and I have nothing, then it's forcing me to think, to get new stuff, right? Yeah. And that's how you do it. Here's another one of my comments. If you build house 2 the same way you built house 1, you failed yourself, you failed your client, and you failed the industry. Because you should have learned something on house 1 to apply to house 2 that altered your ways.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree with that. And I think that's absolutely right. But sharing that knowledge and that collaboration, just like you do with your daughter, and then she comes back and probably says something, you go, huh, yeah, that might make sense, right? I mean, that's also part of sharing it. If you hold it tight, then there's no different thoughts on it. It's your thoughts, and you don't push yourself to the next limit. And you know, Alexandra, tearing open walls. And after this comment, Mark, I think we got to go to some comments. It's lit up pretty good. I think for everybody out there, because we get a lot of the building science people that join us that already know this stuff, and but we also have an audience of people that are just learning this. And in simple forms, I think everybody out there has had to rip open or been around a wall that's been ripped open, and you can just see all the dirt next to the outlet and the pink, Owens Corning insulation, and it's all
filter glass, Dave. Filter glass, they call that.
But it's about what you do with that opportunity, right?
That's
I
right.
ripped open the wall. I revealed history. What do I do with it? That's the important thing. Do I just throw it in the dumpster and neglect it, or do I sit there and try and figure out what paths of failure, modes of failure am I looking at?
Yeah, and just for liability reasons here, if you're sitting here watching with your kids, do not go cutting open your parents' walls while you're at home. That is not what we're saying here.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's a great disclaimer. That's funny. I could just see someone taking Dad's Sawzall and say, "Well, they told me to open up the wall if I want to learn." Okay.
You want to learn. Love it.
Yep.
Hey, let's say hi to a few people. What do you think?
I'm up for it.
All right, we got good old Adam White. Happy New Year's, guys and girls. Thank you, Adam. It's wonderful seeing you today. All right, moving on. Happy New Year, Waskas Iqbal, I think is how we say that. Iqbal, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. They usually will light me up. Thank you so much for joining us on this New Year's. I love it. We got Sean St. Amour. Happy New Year's and BS Friday.
Hello, Sean.
Okay, moving through here. So Adam White's in Cambridge today, so thank you, Adam. Andrew Seeley, Happy New Year. Great show today. I don't know if you guys all know each other here, but awesome stuff. Oh, man, my whole screen just jumped with a bunch of new comments came in. Give me 1 second. All right, here we go.
I'm waiting for Henry Mickelberg and Scott Farman to give Stephen a 3-paragraph long question that he answers in 4 words.
Oh, if they're on, I'm sure it's coming.
It's like name that tune, Mark. How can I answer that question? 3 notes.
I love it. Hey, look at that. We got the head of the National Association of Home Builders joining us today, Greg Ugaldi, the immediate past chairman, who is still the chairman this year, one more trip around. Hey, Greg, thank you for joining us today. Hope you had a wonderful New Year's as well.
Always a thumbs up to you, Greg, and your industry. You know, we're here to share and bring all your friends along. There's plenty of room for all of us to grow, brother. Thumbs up.
Amen. I love it. Hey, I don't know if this is good or bad for you, Stephen. Adam White has a big man crush on Stephen Baczek. I love it. I love it. Hey, we got Bob Kelly, compatible materials in existing buildings. Run with it, Mark.
Yeah, Bob is like none other. Please put your Instagram handle in the chat, Bob. You'll see Stephen, myself, and 40 other people light up his photographs. He deals specifically with roofs and existing buildings and discovery.
I learn a lot on Bob's site. I learn a lot on his site.
Yep.
He's good. He's good.
For sure. And I'm thinking about, as we're talking, Alexandra or Steve, you're there, pull up that cantilever deck if we're allowed to show it. Maybe we can flash a picture of that up here near the end of the show, because it is really impressive. And I'll share it. All right, so we got a 2-part here. We got from Twitch. Hey, Twitch is in the house. 5 Max. First time we've had a Twitch comment on this show, Stephen.
There we go. See, I told you I'm in the firsts.
You're in the first. Prove yourself with skill, not abbreviations to words. Good point, my dude. And then he says, I'm curious what Steve's thought is on the architectural design of the expansion to Ottawa, Canada, Chateau Lauriers Hotel.
5 Max, I'm not in tune with it. I apologize for that, but I will be by the end of the day.
Hey, five Max or five Big Macs or whatever's going on over there. Can you send us a link to what that building is?
please do.
And Jennifer, can you put the Twitch handle in the chat so all these people can find us on this wonderful Twitch platform?
Yep, I love it. Well, hey, in 5 Max, thanks so much for joining us. We know a lot of gamers are on Twitch and they do newscasts and stuff like that, but we really need some really smart young people in our industry like Alexandra, and we need to keep growing it. So it really means a lot to us that you tuned in today, and thank you for that question.
Yeah.
All right. John Yaworski, agree. Our house is 112 years old, built like a tank. A few issues, though. All right, here we go.
Just like us, John, no sweat. All issues can be resolved.
Exactly. Hopefully I look that good when I'm 112.
Buzz Holzer. Hey, Buzz. Hope all is well. Let's build betterer. I love it.
I agree.
Love that.
Man, we got a lot of people. I'm surprised on New Year's Day. This is awesome. All right, Nicole Emilio Casper, comprehensive look. That is a great path to a full understanding. And moving down the road.
I understand Nicole has a master's in architecture. Thumbs up to you.
Yeah. So, in 5 Max, I hope you got our comments there. He thought there was no viewer engagement. So, yeah, we went a little longer than we normally do. We got a lot to talk about today. So, if you got more questions, put them up there. All right, moving on. Let's see what this one is here. Greg Ugaldi. Greg Ugaldi's on Twitch. Look at that. Dave and Jen just switched over to Twitch to give it a shot. Great to see you all. Man, that is awesome. So
Dave, when you get the head of the NAHB to be on Twitch, you know our industry is taking off. I mean, hot damn that building science is on Twitch.
Hey, Greg, if you ever want to have a phone call where we can talk about how to just turn the NAHB into a rocket ship, you let me know.
That's it. Hey, that might be a good conversation for a live show. Greg's on our show once a month, so we talk about all kinds of things. So that might be a fun conversation to have.
I hope it's an all-electric rocket ship.
That's right. All right. Bob Kelly says, thanks, Steve.
You're always welcome, buddy.
Greg loves your bookshelf, Mark. Okay, here we go. Let's, and Buzz Howitzer says, free Willie. All right, enough joking around. Let's get back to some serious nonsense here.
You know, it's funny, Dave. What I was thinking about while we were going through these is, I'm somewhat of a jokester, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
But so I like to show up on a job site, and I don't own any bow ties, so I can't give away the architect title right away. I usually show up in a sweatshirt, so I'll show up at different points in the construction. But a couple times these memories stick with me. I pulled up to this one job site. Concrete guy was there, waiting for the concrete truck, and I walk up. I lean on the fence next to him and say, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" He's, "Hey, doing fine." I was like, "How's things going?" He goes, "Oh, good." I said, "Everything lay out okay?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, great." Looks at me and says, "Who are you?" He goes, You the building inspector?" I said, "No." And I wouldn't give him the answer. He said, "Oh, you must be the framer." And I said, "No." He goes, "What are you, the plumber?" And he starts getting aggravated now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No." He goes, "Well, then who the F are you?" And I said, "I'm the architect." And he's like, "Really? What are you doing here?" Right? But my point is, I was there, and then we started a conversation, and I get complimented on my drawings a lot and how involved they are. But that's not me just developing good drawings. That's me sitting with that concrete guy saying, did the drawings lay out okay? Was there any information that you had to, extrapolate from what I gave you that wasn't there? Is there something I should have put there?
Yeah.
Right. And I do the same thing with framers. I'll climb up the ladder, climb up onto the roof and hang out with them. And they're like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "I'm the architect." He's like, "What are you doing up here?" I'm like, "I'm just coming up for a chat." Did the framing lay out okay? Was everything the way it should have been? Was there something I could improve on? Is there information here that wasn't there that should have been there that would have helped you out? And all these little tidbits over 27 years have accumulated to, and I still do it. I still go out there. We just did a project in Gloucester, probably the most complex foundation I've ever done. And as an architect, two things in the world scare me: foundations and window schedules, because they both get ordered and they both don't have any lateral nature to them, right? They have to be what they have to be.
They have an eighth of an inch.
Yeah. But the concrete foundation, I actually ended up building a 3D model of it and then superimposing the ground on it, because there was probably no less than about 24 different elevations of wall and footing in this foundation. But the builder highly respected it because I figured everything out for him. He double checked it, made sure that we were right. But then he was like, it was probably the most complex but easiest installation of a foundation I've ever put in. And it's because we all did our job. And, traveling around the country, doing the lecturing and stuff, Peter Yost and I have been known to jump a couple fences here and there and go look at projects. And, our industry in some places, and probably in a lot of places, but it's highly fractured. The architect does a bunch of drawings, gets paid by the homeowner, and then gives them to the homeowner. Homeowner throws them at the builder. And then one of two things happens. They're either good enough to use, or they're good enough to get the general sense, and then they get tossed aside and they have at it and do what they want to do. But that's, we all need to take responsibility for ourselves, but what we leave for the next person, is it enough for them to do their job adequately, right? Not just doing my job, but my job, every job has a little bit of crossover. It's like a construction schedule.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody you're not quite finished when the next person starts. So there's that little bit of overlap there. Right. And that overlap is where you can get the education too. And
I can testify. While we visited Jake's site in the hills of Missouri, I turned around and Steve was running up the stairs. And next thing I looked, he's on the roof and he's walking back and forth on the roof. And I'll tell you what, Dave, I just turned on my video camera and I recorded everything he was saying and doing. And Jake's like, "What are you guys doing?" I'm like, you got to record what he's saying right here, because this is a detail. And that video turned out to be epic, right? We replayed it later, Stephen. It was great.
Yep. Yeah, that's a 1 in 12 vented roof system.
Yeah.
1 in 12 vented. Yeah. And we're going to come right back to that in a second. I want to finish on the conversation of, the collaboration on site, the conversation. It surprises me every time I go to a job site, I talk to a trade, and there was no pre-construction meeting at all, where they all just come together and just walk it through, even though it's on paper, because codes change and the electrician's not paying attention to the plumber's code and the plumber's code is not paying attention to the electrician, right? And all of a sudden it turns into a 2-hour meeting of what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Every single job, I don't care how many times, we've done it. So I think you're absolutely right. And what you're saying is you actually are going to the job and saying, how can I be better to make your job easier, which in turn makes the customer so much happier with everybody, because then you have a much smoother project. And that's who we're building for, as a consumer of some sort, whether it's commercial, residential, or what have you. And I think the trades are happier, and it's a better scheduled project. It's a cleaner project, all of those things. So Greg Ugaldi had another comment. I'm just going to put it here, and then we'll go back to what you were saying. Greg says exactly why this conversation is critical, Steve and Alex. A site visit to determine, is construction in sync with the drawings? Is everything working? Where can we improve? And I agree with that sentiment exactly.
And for all of us, the framer, he hopefully is learning something, but I'm hopefully learning something from him. And that, putting us in sync. It's we're an orchestra, all of the trades, the architect, everybody. And we got to play beautiful music. Yeah. Because that's how we get the project.
Oh, Jennifer, there's a t-shirt. We're an orchestra and we got to play beautiful music.
How do you put a hammer and saw on that?
There you go. But it's also important that, I'm excited to have Alex with me, because it's the collaboration with all those people, but now we have this generational collaboration, right? I have a bunch of information. How do we share it? And it's funny, because I worked at a couple architecture firms before I went to building science, and they are so hard pressed to just keep you in a chair and draw this, draw that, draw this. Oh, we can't waste time and money to send you out to the job site. Well, she's my biggest investment in the company, right? If I could teach her something to do that I no longer have to do, then that frees me up to do other stuff.
That's right.
Right. And so many architects just, they don't see that. And it gives a buy-in. Nobody wants a job where they sit in the corner and draw interior elevations all day. Everybody. I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm a kid in a candy store when I step out of my truck on a job site.
Yep.
I get excited. I run around. I told Mark, I could hire 2 people as a full-time job just to manage my photos. I take so many of them. But it's because I'm excited. I'll go home and I'll review them and I'll be like, oh, look at that. Look at this is where they did that. This is how they did this.
Check your inbox, Stephen. I just sent you my resume.
There you go.
Mine's on the way over too. So, hey, here's a comment. I just want to get up there real quick. Jennifer says, launching the NAHB like a rocket ship, a new show featuring Greg Ugaldi and Stephen Baczek on DC Live.
There you go. I'm up for it.
There's an idea. And then Andrew Seeley is all on board. He said, Jennifer Cooper, yes, please. And there's your t-shirt. Building beautiful music and building better together. I love it.
There you go.
So speaking of handing those things off and working together, what kind of level of detailing are each of you in just gifted at, right? When it comes to the drawing, because each of you probably have your benefit on that side of the business as well, right?
So I'll answer this one for me, that I think my drawings are artwork, honestly. And I've taken a long time to develop how I draw like details and sections. And Lexi will attest, when she first came on, I threw an 8.5 by 11 sheet at her that had like 40 lines on it, all different colors. And she's like, what's this? I said, those are the line weights we use. She's like, what do you mean? I said, well, you'll see when we start drawing details and stuff that things have different line weights. So things pop out on the drawing and such. But my experience at Building Science really helped me to understand how things get put together. And I'm working on trying to transfer that to Alexandra. And, whether we do a little in the office, whether we do a little in the out at the job site. And Mark, you're going to absolutely love this. Recently I applaud my daughter. She had her first article on GBA come out on last Wednesday.
Wow. Right.
So, and what did she write on, Mark? What was the topic?
I think it was design details for a special framing member, right?
For using the T-stud. But here, this is where the military man comes in. She's writing the article and she's asked me a question. And I said, well, go get the T-stud that Mark sent us. She's like, well, why can't you just tell me? I said, I'm not going to tell you. Go down in the basement, get the T-stud, bring it up and measure it and then draw it. Because you won't forget the fact that I made you measure those chords at 2.5 inches by 1.5 inches and how they're oriented and all of that stuff.
Then you could go downstairs and take a deep breath before you say your response, right, Alexandra?
Yeah.
A few deep breaths.
And then she comes up. But that translates, Dave, when Peter and I are out there, one of my biggest pet peeves when we're out there talking, and this goes back to our original question of not being able to make decisions. At the end of the show or seminar, people come up, architects, some builders, but they'll come up with their detail and say, well, what should I use here? What should I use here? There's probably 20 things we could use there. We just gave you a whole day presentation on what you should use there. People just want me to throw fish in the boat. They don't want to learn how to fish, right? There's another quote for you, John.
What's the other one? I'd rather be good than lucky.
Yeah, I'd rather be lucky than good. Or no, is it? I'd rather be good than lucky. Something like that. Yeah.
I love it. Hey,
How
Mark.
about this one, Mark? You'll love this one. Chance favors the prepared mind.
Oh.
Chance favors the prepared mind. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. That is a good one. Brian Iverson doesn't even have your resume.
That's a great comment.
I love it. All right. So let's hop in. So we've been doing some comments and questions. So here's some of the things, right? Let's put some credibility behind you guys. From the people that don't know you, 54 LEED certified homes.
Yep.
54 LEED certified homes. That's
I mean, in all honesty, I did all the drawings for a privately held home builder in the Southwest. And in our heyday, we were probably doing 500-600 homes a year.
Yeah.
But we had a zero energy package with every house. And so when somebody bought the zero energy package, the house went to LEED Platinum and got certified.
Great. That is great. And then you have some other comments. Mark, it's 54 minutes already. We're going to keep going.
I have to comment on that. So that's really funny. And some people in the audience know exactly what Stephen just said. They used a zero package and then the house became LEED Platinum. So your what it's saying is you're bringing the principles to the table. The house got built that way. And because the records were kept, then they were able to go for the LEED Platinum. That's a very clear statement for people that understand certifications. So the point to that is, if you have this repertoire that you know how to get to buildings here, it doesn't matter what certification you're going for because you're already using that intrinsically in every decision that is made throughout the planning and production.
Make the right decisions, Mark. The rest will follow.
Right? Yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
Including the money.
Adam said he's going to send you some passive purple so you can get some hands-on with his liquid gold.
Send it away, buddy. We got houses. I have at any given time, I probably have 20 projects that we can apply or do something to.
I love it. All right. So some famous quotes. If it don't last, it don't matter.
If it don't last, it don't matter, right? People talk about, I got our 60 walls. I got our 120 roofs, but your water management sucks. So you know what that tells me? It just tells me that we're going to put about 4,000 pounds of insulation in the dumpster in about 10 years. So the first thing you need to worry about is water. Number one killer of buildings. End of story. And what do we do with water, Lexi?
Down and out.
Down and out, right? Use Mother Nature to our advantage. Have the water go down and get it away from our building as fast as we can.
What do you think of those internal scupper and internal gutters, Stephen? Aren't they brilliant?
I have a friend that's doing a massive house in Virginia that has them, and he asked me what I think, and I said I think it's a dumb idea. And one of the things, I'm brutally honest, Dave, but I said, he's like, but we're doing this, we're doing that. I'm like, yes, that is a system. It's like a skylight, right? Yep. Skylights are great, but you're putting it in the most challenging environment. If you think that skylight isn't going to leak in 10, 20 years, you're pretty naive. I don't care how good of a builder or what system you use. It's just being way too, it's above its level of success versus risk.
You know what line I get all the time from him? Every time I try and overcomplicate something, he just turns around and simply says, keep it simple, stupid. That's what I get all the time. Keep it simple, stupid.
Well, and there's a second tagline to that. Keep it simple. Others will complicate it for you. Right?
That's right. Hey, I always say business is easy until people get involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just like buildings.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
All right. So, Alexandra, we're going to give you the floor here. And there's a reason why I'm doing this. A couple of weeks ago, we had one of the youngest passive house certified youngsters on this show. What was he, Mark? 16? 12?
Dylan is 15 years 15. Old. He's I believe he's in the Bronx, right? Is that where they're at? I'm probably going to get that wrong. New York has so many neighborhoods, but yeah, 15 years old.
Brooklyn, I think it is. Yeah, but Brooklyn. 15 years old, youngest youngest passive house certified person out there. So I think this is great. So Alexandra, I want to just from your viewpoint, leaving college and then getting out into the real world, working for general contractors, working with your dad in the industry and learning about building science. Has it kind of changed your mindset at all? Or where do you think it is? Do you feel we're behind the times?
That's an interesting question. I think the school curriculum is definitely behind the times. I think that a lot has happened. And I think it's funny. I think outside of school, we've definitely made, let's say we're pointed in the right direction. And I think we're walking in the right direction. We all want to go there. I think that there are some things and some people that need to catch up. And one of those things I think is school. I think since we've made all these strides, we haven't reciprocated it all the way down. And I think that's school. And I think we need to change our mind of, if we're going to sit here and point towards that direction, I think school is so focused on teaching us the ideas of how do we build, what's a wall assembly, and not focus on teaching us this is what it looks like for it to fail. And this is why it fails. And it goes right back to what we started about in the beginning. And I think that's the huge disconnect of, rather than teaching us just, oh, what's a way to do it, teach us the 6 different ways, and then teach us the 4 ways that you don't do it. And this is why the ways that you don't do it is. And I think that's huge.
So that goes back to the walking the walk, right?
Yeah.
2 things about Alex. One, she never let me in 6.5 years of architecture school. I wasn't allowed to talk to her about her projects. Right. And I commend her on that, because everything she did was Alex's. And I can greatly appreciate you wanted that journey. 2, I was never allowed to talk to her friends, because I would just have them like pulling their hair out when I'd go into studio. But and I was never allowed to come to the critiques, because she let me in on one. And this is an example. A master's thesis student had his project on the wall. I'm looking at the wall section. The wall section was an uninsulated concrete building in Maine.
Yay.
And I'm sitting here thinking, now we don't need to profess passive house or extreme building science, but we cannot let a gentleman graduate 6.5 years of architecture school and think it's okay to do an uninsulated concrete building in Maine. Right? That's just ludicrous to allow them to put that on the wall.
Unless they're building a freezer, right?
So 2 of the things that we used to talk about, there was a group of us that used to talk all the time about school, about what things that we think should have happened while we were in school. And one of the interesting facts is, first of all, I never worked on anything to do residential while I was in school, which blows my mind. 6 months, and there was not one thing that I was taught about residential for the most part. And the second thing was, we all sat there and we decided that we thought we were getting taught how to be the owner of a company rather than how to work for a company. So they teach you, get out and you understand, like, oh, how do I design? How do I make all the design choices? How do I talk to a client? All this stuff. But when you get out, you're not doing that. And they prepare you to be at the top, right. But they need to sit there and prepare you. How do you get to the top? How do you sit there? What questions do you ask? Like, there are important times where, I mean, there are definitely clients that we have that probably think I'm shy and quiet, but it's because I think it's very important to understand also when to know to shut your mouth and listen to how do you interact with somebody else? How are these 2 talking to one another? What questions are they asking? How often is the framer talking to the general contractor and all these other people? And I think that's very important. But I think school doesn't teach you enough of how do you get to the top and what's the journey look like to get there. It just teaches you what to do when you're at the top.
I hear another article being formed right out of the air, right? Not just an architect and an author, but you're going to be a professor.
That's it. Hey, listen, we're doing some work with the universities around this country. I think it'd be a lot of fun to have you start speaking to some other students in universities as we do this road show and bring you into our live show. I think there's a lot to be said to do that. And I think that'd be a lot of fun. So I love it. Thank you guys have been awesome. It's over an hour. I've been having a blast. There's a couple more comments here.
Wait a minute, Dave. This is a 4-hour show today. April 4th. This is a 4-hour show.
Hey, tell them hey, Mark, what do we have on when we did the technology and all of that stuff? We still had like 230 people, like 2.5 hours later.
Right.
Oh,
so the deal, Dave, is the first hour free, and then incrementally the
fees go up.
The fee changes.
We put up our donation bucket here, there, and again.
There you go. Pass the hat.
Yeah,
Well, you know,
yeah.
quite honestly, we don't have 4 more hours. We only have 3 more hours, Mark, if we're really doing that. So I'm going to go get some coffee. I'll be right back.
We're going to pass the hat on Twitch, and they could send over all their Bitcoins.
That's right. That's right. Well, listen, guys, it has been awesome having you on the show. I know we're going to do more stuff in the future. I can already feel it. You know, we got a lot of stuff coming up. Steve, I'm going to see if we can work in coming to see you. We have our road show starting February 1st. We are in Florida because we are buying our mobile home. We're homeless. So if you got that many projects, hopefully you got a house for us.
Yeah, I mean, we have a beautiful house down in Columbia, Missouri with Jake. Mark has been to. We should really maybe pick a time in February to come and walk this gem with us.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to talk some more offline, but everybody listen up. We are going and taking this show on the road. Trade shows are not happening, but other than virtually. So we're going to go around this country and we're going to bring all of this great content, all this innovation, all the people like Steven and Alexandra to you every day, 6 days. Well, not every day, 6 days a week. Anyhow, for the next 6 months to a year, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're gonna really showcase and drive this industry forward. We can build it better. We should be building it better, not only for us, but for the next generations to come. And we can actually help people be healthier by building them healthier homes to live in. And I truly believe in that.
Dave, we got that passive house out on the vineyard too. Everybody likes the trip to the vineyard.
Not this time of year.
Actually, this time of year, nice. There's nobody on the ferry.
I know.
The parking lot is empty.
I love it.
It's good. Hey, I just want to throw a couple things out there.
Go ahead.
If you if you want to hear more about who we are, what we say and do, Alex and I, we post stuff daily on Instagram. Go give us a check. Give us a follow there. Check it out. You can find me, Jake Bruton, and Peter Yost on the Unbuild It podcast. Every other Thursday, we drop a new podcast. You can hear us. We break down a lot of building science concepts there to try and help everybody, lift their boats. And then lastly, Matt's doing a hell of a job for the industry, Matt Reisinger, and I'm proud to help contribute on the Build Show Network. I drop a video a week where we talk about stuff in detail. And go check that out.
Yeah, details in the low for the Build Show Network is right down in the ticker right now. And also, just so you guys have it, where I'm also going to put up to learn more here in the ticker, I just put their Instagram profile so you guys can see that. If you missed it, guess what? It's a video and it lives on. You can go back and watch it and find the details. Please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. We are not a Matt Reisinger yet, but we're getting there. YouTube is the place to go because LinkedIn just doesn't house our videos long enough. So with that said, thank you both. Thank you, Alexandra. I think you're a rock star. And Steven, you're always a rock star, man.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, for sure. Mark, happy New Year's, my friend. It's such an honor to know you and be with you. And then everybody else out there. I got to do this one. I'm sorry. Mark, it's your mom. She says happy New Year to you.
Love it. Love it. Bless your heart, Mom. Bless your heart.
You always got to put mom up there. Yeah. Diane, happy New Year's to you. We might as well. We're here. Dan Bryan says, great job. Alex, Steve, Dave, and Mark.
Hoorah. Hey, kudos to Dan Bryan, former Marine.
Hoorah. Love it. Love it. All right. Thanks for all your folks. Do what you do to make the industry better. All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
I have one plug, Dave. For everyone that just tuned in for the first time, we do this every Friday.
No.
And next week, our guest is from British Columbia, where they have the step code. You should learn about the step code, and you should learn about it from someone that makes it easy to learn from. Her name is Christy May, and I believe in the step code. It is a place that we all need to get to. We need to accelerate our codes so that we can improve our lives, the lives of our building, and use less energy in the process. So I hope to see you all next Friday. And Steven, Alexandra, Dave, this was the best way to start 2021. Bless your heart.
I'm going to leave you with our last quote. Right?
You got another quote?
Yes, I do. You don't have to worry about the code if you always build above it.
That's right. Go
beyond. You never
beyond.
have to worry about the code if you always build above it. You just got to hope you just have to hope the building inspectors know what it means.
There There you
I agree
go.
with that. 100%. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. At Dave Cooper Live, we are bringing you the people and the processes that are building it better. And today was no different with Alexandra and Stephen Baczek. Thank you two very much for joining us today. I'm Dave Cooper and the one and only Mark Bare Naked Willie. Stephen, Alexandra, please stay
Thank
with
you.
us. We'll come right back to you after the outro. Have a wonderful New Year's weekend. We'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. with Coffee with Dave. Bye now.